Which is the worst thing. Actually, that's not the worst thing about him.
All right.
Doesn't surprise me.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Here's some intro music.
Welcome to the Folk Hogan Podcast, where each week we have chats, discuss songs and albums and all the weird things that we do in this odd obsession that has led us through our lives for the past 14 years. Yeah. Chips, how are you?
I'm good, but...
You got your Taco Bell ice?
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good ice.
It's going to be crunching in the mic.
It's okay. I only got like 12 pieces of it left.
It'll be gone in no time. And we also have Pete.
Hey.
Yeah, enough about my ice.
Yeah. Pete.
I'm thinking about your ice still.
Pete's got some Grid City beer.
I have some Good City.
What'd you get?
It's, I don't know, hoppy pills.
Ooh. I've heard from so many people that that's a delightful beer.
Yeah. Well, there's a few more of them right there.
As soon as I'm done with this swill I'm drinking, I'll snag one of those.
Not a sponsor.
Pete was saying they replaced the restaurant in there.
Yeah.
Did you go to the new one?
I did. I went and had some Vietnamese food. I had some pot stickers and some stir fry tonight. It was delicious.
There's a lot of good food in that area right there, too.
Sure is. It's all in my belly right now.
Jealous.
If you hear any burping.
Yeah. I've been involved with the Grid City Music Festival for 2 years, which Folk Hogan played this year.
Yeah.
And we got to play Pat's Barbecue.
It was a ton of fun.
I was there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You were
was
there.
I guess we should explain, how do we know Pete?
Who's
do we
this
know
guy?
Pete?
Who's this guest?
Who's Pete?
Well, about 14 or 15 years ago.
Almost,
we met
yeah.
Pete.
Yeah. When was the first time we met? Probably when you ran Deerhunter.
It was before that. I didn't own it yet. I think I saw you play our Battle of the Bands down there, though, that I think I was doing sound for.
Okay, yeah.
Or helped with something on it. I don't know. It was 14 or 15 years ago. I don't remember.
That was 2012.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was 11.
It was 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
14 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Something.
Time flies.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
Especially reverse math.
Yep. Yeah. And then you became the owner of Deerhunter.
Yeah, I became the owner, and we booked you guys for every good party we had.
Boy, did we have some good parties.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I'm here is for those stories, right?
Yeah, and then you've been here, you've been to a million shows since then.
And about 100 and something.
So do you
Probably.
remember what the first thing was that you saw us at?
It was at that Battle of the Bands for sure.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, y'all played at ABG's and at the Woodshed. I saw you around the same time.
Yeah.
Is that the one where the American Hitmen were the judges?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So was this after they kind of popped off? And
No, it was
This is
before. It was
before.
2 years before they went
2
off.
years before they went off and got
Yeah.
TV famous?
Yeah. And Kiss Me Kill Me was another band that was at that show. We
And
played
we
a couple
almost
shows
lost
with
to them.
They were so,
were so
good.
That was
when
a
they
great band.
finished. When they finished, the judges were like, "I don't think you guys are going to win."
Yeah.
And then
Straight
you,
up.
and then you played, and it was awesome.
Which is what a partisan judge should do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Kiss Me
that's-
Kill Me. Their drummer Felix ended up in my
judge.
band for a while.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
They were a great band.
They were so good.
I remember that.
I was so bummed out when they stopped doing shows. It's like, I really liked that band.
Yeah, the Utah County arc of bands tends to be 2 to 3 years, and then they just kind of go away.
I mean, I feel like that's long for most bands.
It is, even for bigger cities for sure.
Yeah.
But down there, that's just the culture. That's just what it does.
Yeah, we talk sometimes about how weird it is that we've kept this going this long.
It's abnormal.
It's bizarre.
Don't take that personally.
No,
because
it really is.
It's not normal.
Even it's like even like the Beatles. Like how many years was that? And how many?
7.
Yeah, 7
How
years
many
in
shows,
popularity.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a long time.
I think the list of the number of shows they played is only like 350, 400 shows, something like that. If you're not including any of the stuff before 1964. Which
yeah, and even with all that, they're like 215 songs. It's not even that much work.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But they just did so much so fast that it matters.
Yeah. Yep. I know some local musicians that have played more than 365 gigs in a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brad Wheeler.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Has.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Man. Before we went to Europe the first time I got together with him, and we just talked about what touring Europe is like.
Yeah.
And he had a very different story touring Europe in the 90s than we did.
Oh, I'm sure.
The Salt Lake bands that went to Europe in the 90s had a very different experience than you have now.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're probably going to be playing at some German prisons later this year. So,
well, that's amazing.
It's going to be weird, but yeah. I mean, my favorite thing with older musicians was just like, hey, so, you were in this band in the 80s. Like, how did you book shows? How did you book a tour? How did you communicate? I mean, even just the concept of like, how did you get together with your friends in the 90s it's so detached from what a teenager right now is experiencing.
Well, I can answer some of that because I did some of that in the 80s and 90s. But you just had to know somebody in that city, call them up and say, hey, what's the club? What's the hot club? And then you'd call them on their landline, and no answering machines even.
Yeah.
Someone would answer, hey, I need to speak to the manager or whoever books the bands. Hey, we're going to be coming through there on August 14th. Will you put us on a bill? Sure, you can be on a bill. You're going to be opening for this local band called Pearl Jam, but whatever.
Yeah.
And they're just starting out, and there you go. And that happened. And that's the way it was for decades. That's the way it was.
I mean, we've been around long enough that when we started out, most venues didn't have Facebook pages.
No.
Didn't have any of that stuff. And
the Deerhunter did.
And I remember calling bars many times and like calling the landline.
When we used to book for the Deerhunter, it was just Nick and I emailing pretty much for you guys. I'd just send you an email and we'd say, here's a date that works. And you guys would put together your weekend based around a booked date. And there it was.
Yeah. Oh, the Deerhunter. How did that happen? How did you buy Deerhunter?
Personal story. I was involved in a business that was really successful doing corporate events and like business convention production.
Yeah.
I was one of the owners. We were very successful up until 2008. And then in 2008, the economy went upside down. However, we ended up with one particular customer that made it just ridiculously successful for us.
Excellent.
It was actually two customers. They were tech companies and they had cash to spend. So the economy went upside down. We got successful. So by 2010-11, we were trying to figure out what to do next. It was that big a deal. And so a business partner and I decided to buy this bar because we thought it was kind of a cool thing. We hung out there for a year and a half or something, figuring it out if we wanted to be in. Suddenly we realized we want to be in, bought it, and then everything went upside down.
Yeah.
But it was a cool experience. It was really great because it was all paid for with cash that just came from nowhere.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have to work that hard for what I got out of that.
Yeah. Nick, did you ever go to Deerhunter before Folk Hogan played there?
No.
I
don't think so.
When I was in Devil's Country, we were playing a show there, and they needed an opener, and the person that was supposed to open canceled. And so like 3 days before the show, they were like, can you do a solo set? And I was like, I got a better idea. Like, hey, you play drums, and I got another friend that I can make him play bass. Like, why don't you guys come to my house?
We'll put together 8 songs.
In 3 days, we'll just like throw it together, which we did. And that was my first time at Deerhunter, and it was much more of just like it seemed more like just the log cabin that it was.
It was the
then.
log cabin locals bar.
Yeah.
It was the alternative to the one downtown.
I really liked it. I really liked that place. And I didn't have like a band name. So I just told them to, I was like, oh, this will be funny. I'll like pull a prank on the people that I'm asking to be in the band. And just listed as Moses McKinley and the Mustache Riders.
Nice.
And then when we got to the show, I realized out of the three of us, I was the only one with a mustache. And I was like, I did this to myself. Oh,
nice.
Well. Yeah, I went there back in the day, and then it changed a lot over the years. I mean, like any place does. But I feel like what it was like that first time that I played there to the first time that Folk Hogan played there, it was very different.
Yeah, they were just starting out. The previous owners to us had just kind of started out. They didn't know what they were doing. They had a good idea. They had some money. Good, fine, open a place.
Yeah.
And, there was a place existing that was available. They bought it. They did it. We ended up with it because it ran its course. Turns out that they saw the writing on the wall. They saw a couple months ahead because they had been doing it long enough. So suddenly they realized it was going to stop.
Yeah.
So we inherited it right as everything changed. It didn't fail right away. Well, it didn't fail.
Yeah.
It's still that liquor license is actually still live somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed names 4 or 5 times since then, but so it's not a real failure, but it certainly wasn't something you're going to do to retire.
Right. Yeah.
Utah County bar in the backwoods,
Right.
Off the beaten path is not really going to do that well. It's not
Yeah.
a nightclub. You want to be, but you can't be.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of nowhere. Sheriff's station's right over there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a weird place, but
Yo,
it was
isn't it right by the Utah County Jail?
yeah.
And so as you're rolling up to this place, you're seeing signs for like lawyers' phone numbers and stuff.
Bail bonds places
and-
are all over the place.
Because you've either just been arrested, you're going to the airport that's right there, the private or the small airport, or you're going to the bar.
Yep. Or
There's not much else over there.
Or you're going to the place that we made fun of every time we drove past. It was called Creative Signs and Graphics.
Creative signs and
With
graphics.
the worst sign on the
with
planet.
the worst sign on the planet. And so every
like
time we saw it, we would just go, Creative Signs and Graphics for all your creative sign and graphics needs. Because that's what the font said to us.
That's what it was.
It's like an unwritten rule that like you have to have the worst signage as a signage company. It's like a shoemaker's kid scenario.
I mean, I guess it worked because like here I am talking about it this many years
and they
later.
still exist.
Good for them. Hey, sponsor us. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's how we got into that. I didn't think I'd ever own a bar. I didn't grow up in a culture that necessarily supported that being part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we thought it was a cool enough place, and we did it, and then it became something I did because I really liked booking the bands. I liked producing the shows. I liked kind of the coordination, the project management part of just running a company like that, a business like that. It was fun.
It was a cool spot. I liked it. Although one night I was there with my 2 sister-in-laws and they wanted to drink Tuwaka all night. And I did it, and boy, do I wish I hadn't done it.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Awful evening. So,
What's Tuwaka?
It's like is it caramel flavored liqueur?
Yeah, it's a sweet liqueur of some kind.
I was always thinking of those plastic half gallons of vodka.
Oh, no, you're thinking of Taka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you get at the liquor store that's right
I didn't
over
know
here.
if like you were fancy enough that you were just, pronouncing all of the syllables.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah. So you saw us then, and then since then you've just what's your take on the life of Folk Hogan? I'm sure you got a lot of good stories because those early Deerhunter days were kind of wacky.
Yeah, they sure were.
For us.
I saw you at a run of shows through 2011. Then we bought the bar. We booked you in. We became the sponsors of the Utah County Women's Roller Derby League.
That's right.
And we would put you guys in on the roller derby parties.
Yeah.
Because they liked you, and they would show up in force to experience what the band had to offer to the culture.
Hit.
Yeah.
It was a hit.
It was a hit.
Yeah.
So this poster for the camera, February 25th, 2012, you guys played probably what would have been your first Utah County roller derby show. Yeah. And I can't remember it. I was working, so I can't remember it for the same reasons as everyone else.
Yeah.
I do know a couple things about that night. I had to stop the roller derby people from taking off their shirts and underclothing right in front of the band, which I know happened.
I think that might have been...
That was when you dropped your pants.
Yeah, I was going to say that might have been my fault.
Oh, no.
And we had to stop that. And then there was...
I can't remember... I can't remember how that started. There was someone that would always scream, "Take off your pants" at shows, and so it just became a thing where we just like drop trow, still underwear on, but
yeah,
that's very illegal in Utah if you're serving alcohol.
Bar, you got to be really careful.
Yeah.
There's a real fine line, and let's just say that statute of limitations allowed me to say we crossed the line a few times.
Yeah.
I was always in the back saying no, no, no. Which I was required to do.
Yeah.
And meanwhile going, someone get a camera. This is amazing.
I have a photo somewhere of us on the stage at Deerhunter where my pants are around my ankles.
I'm sure it's, I actually probably do too.
Yeah.
So we did that. There was a time, it probably wasn't that first time you played there. It would have been a month or two later where, we made some joke about everyone, Folk Hogan's playing tonight, hide your women and your whiskey because they're coming. And then even though we had stocked up on every bit of whiskey we could afford and had all the whiskey in the whole county pretty much, we ran out and had to send people to their homes or to their cars to get whatever bottles of whiskey they had so we could continue serving. I remember vividly a giant serving tray of whiskey shots, as full as you can imagine. It probably weighed 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
And a little tiny bartender person, carrying this thing around just for whoever wanted a whiskey shot, like probably 50 shots.
Wow.
Yep.
Just as fast as we could pour it, it was going.
Yeah. We ran you out of whiskey a couple times, I think. I'm not mistaken.
I'm quite aware.
Yeah. Those early days were nuts.
It doesn't seem real.
I know. Those early days were insane.
It doesn't seem real. It was so long ago, but it was like...
Well, when you had Canyon on stage constantly being like, buy us a round of shots, buy us a round of shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was 2 rounds at a time or 3 rounds at a time.
For years, it would be like, okay, 6 band members and me and my friend and my other friend.
And that's the thing.
And then it would just go.
Back in those days, you'd show up with a bunch of significant others that were also on the drinking list. So, who wants a shot?
Yep.
Well, there's 12 band members, if you count that.
Yeah.
And that just kept happening over and over.
Oh, yeah. Drank you out of house and home.
Yeah. That's not the only reason.
Yeah.
One of the times we were down there, I made a note of this. I made a little note. Nick brought me some food.
Oh, yeah.
Nick brought a giant vegan burrito.
It was enormous.
It was one of the biggest pieces of food I've ever seen in my life.
Where did we...
El Azteca.
El Azteca, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I was like really skeptical, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And you're like, just try it. And I ate it. I'm like, that's pretty good.
No, if I'm not mistaken,
so
we had played in Ogden a daytime show that day.
That was your 2-show day, and you
Ogden to Spanish Fork,
and you stopped in Provo to get some burritos on the way down.
We stopped to pick up that order, but El Azteca, great business that also kind of came to an end shortly after this time period. But it was the son of the original owner. And he took over the business, but was a vegetarian. And so he just added the most bitchin' vegetarian options to their classic like Mexican food. They've been in Provo for like 20 or 30 years at this point.
Yeah, forever.
And so they had some deal where you could get like a giant burrito that they would make out of like 4 or 5 14-inch tortillas.
Yeah.
And it was just this massive burrito for like $30.
And there was no styrofoam container on the planet big enough to hold it.
It was just like this giant party sub style burrito. And we brought one of those down. And we're just like, hey, like, here's the deal. Like, we've got a vegetarian, we've got a vegan in the band. We going back to back with the shows. We're bringing food in. We're going to bring some for you.
And I'm sure I was like, I'll bring the drinks.
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
whatever.
That sounds cool.
Sure. Whatever you want.
I had heard about the burrito, and Nick was like, the burrito's this big, like with his hand super far out. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So when we left Spanish Fork, I stopped and grabbed a burrito because I was like, I'm hungry now. And then when we got there and I saw the size of the burrito, I was like, I've severely miscalculated.
I think we went through all our dishes from the kitchen just trying to accommodate that damn
It
burrito.
was enormous.
I forgot about that. That's good. That's a good memory.
Yeah, so that's one of my memories from you guys at the time. I remember when you first showed up, you didn't have an album out, and you had one drummer, and I don't remember who it was.
Jeremy.
Yep. And then the next time you showed up, you maybe had a different drummer.
Yeah.
And then the next time you showed up, you called me the day of, and you're like, hey, we don't have a drummer. I don't know if we can play. And I said, I need a band.
Yeah.
So you showed up and played without a drummer?
Yep.
Oh, that was the worst.
It was like Spinal Tap City. You were blowing up drummers as fast as you could that year.
Yeah, it was Jeremy, and then he left the band, and then Curtis filled in.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't joined the band yet, and then Jeremy was filling in for us because Curtis got too busy, and then he didn't want to do it anymore, and then Curtis joined
He
the
just
band.
like day of was like, oh, I forgot. I don't have that on my schedule.
Yeah,
like
I can't do it.
I never agreed to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have booked it without you.
Yep.
I just, thinking back on it, it's just exploding drummers. It's
Yeah.
Spinal
Yeah.
Tap.
Yeah.
It was hard to keep somebody in that position.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in a band that we had a steady lineup for the whole time, and we still went through people like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, after 7 or 8 years, you're done.
yeah.
Some people just can't do it for that long.
I mean, that's an eternity for a band.
Yeah.
Folk Hogan is on its 3rd full-time drummer,
Yeah.
and we've probably had. Well, no, I'm not counting Lee. That was such a short-lived thing. Was he a full-time
Yeah.
drummer? Or?
It's hard to say.
Well,
I
if you're
mean,
counting part-timers, count part-timers.
Lee played 3 shows.
He went on a tour with us, and we
Okay.
almost didn't bring him back
Yep.
home.
Oh,
Yeah.
one of those
We
guys.
played one show in Salt Lake. There was a surprise show that we played for like 15 minutes before the cops showed up and stopped us. And then we had 2 shows out of state. And the first show was at this bar in Grand Junction called Sabrosa.
Uh-huh.
And we played with a really awesome band. What were they called? Shotgun Hoedown.
Well, that's a hell of a name, too.
They were really cool. And Shotgun Hoedown played first, and then the place started to clear out. So we were like frantically setting up as fast as we could. And we played this set like full intensity and captivated everyone. And like people were calling their friends like, you gotta come
You
down
gotta
here
come
and see
back.
this.
Yeah.
And we got done that night, and the bartenders were like super stoked. We became friends with a bunch of them, but they were like, anytime you guys are in town, you can drink for free here. Like,
Nice.
we love you guys. Come on by. Well, the next night we were playing a block and a half away at a place called Nagy McGee's. And Lee did not have any money for food or anything, which like happens. We're musicians, so we were all like trying to like give him food on the side here and there. And at one point, throughout the day, he kept just disappearing, and so we'd go look for Lee, trying to figure out where he was. And inevitably, we would find him at Sabrosa just sitting drinking a beer because he knew he could go there and drink for free. So by like the fourth or fifth time that this happens, I pull him out and I'm like, hey, let's go over to the venue. Let's look at it. Let's make sure everything's cool. Figure out where we're setting up,
It's
where
just
we're going
down
to
the
load
block.
in.
It's just right there.
So we walk over, and he's drunk at this point because he's had nothing to
That's
eat.
all he
He's
had
just
to
been
eat.
drinking all
Right.
day. And we go in, and we like try to find the spot to set up. And the manager meets us, and he's like, yeah, so I'm going to have you guys set up over in this corner. And it's like an Irish pub style bar. And I'm like, okay, that's no problem. And Lee like looks around the dining area, and there's like this elevated dining area, and he's like, no, I want to set up over here. And the manager's like, well, we have dinner tables there, and we have bands set up over here. And Lee just turned and looked at him and went, why you got to be such a cocksucker, man? And I was like, you're going to have to excuse us for a second, and hauled him outside. And I was like, dude, you cannot talk. Like, you cannot do that.
No.
That's unacceptable behavior. Well, he then got super belligerent and started yelling at us. He was using my drum kit at the time, and he was like throwing my cymbals on the sidewalk in front of a line of people who had seen us the night before who were coming to see us again. And he's like throwing a toddler style tantrum on the sidewalk outside. And one of my favorite moments of Folk Hogan of all time is we're trying to calm him down and be like, dude, look, we just got to play the show. Like, we can talk about this afterwards. And he looks at Nick and he's like, do you want to fucking go, Nick Passy? Huh? Do you want to go? And Nick goes, not really. I was like, oh man, nothing has ever encapsulated the mentality that everyone in this band has than that. Like,
We had just-
that doesn't sound
Not
like a good
really.
time.
We had just been passing him around, babysitting him for the
Yeah.
whole 2 or 3
Yeah.
days.
So no, I don't really count Lee.
Yeah.
'Cause- And then we had to drive home with him, and he was sitting in front of me for 6 hours, and I was just staring at the back, staring lasers in the back of his head, just like, can't wait to get home so I can fire you. And then the van broke down, and I got out of the van and just started walking away.
We're gonna leave you in
Box
price.
came running up, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. I cannot
Nope.
listen to him."
Nope.
So yeah, we've had a few drummers.
I've put crew people on a bus before, on a plane, and said
Yeah.
go home.
I mean, we've been really fortunate. Like, we haven't had a ton of lineup changes, but we've had a lot of really solid people that have like,
Yeah, early on you had a lot more than you have since.
yeah,
You know, once
For sure.
you released the first record, it kind of
yeah.
locked in, and you got rid of that. But first record for the video people, is the camera working?
Yeah. Pete's holding up a
It's a signed copy, first edition.
Yeah.
Band of Mighty Souls.
that album's gone
album.
cardboard.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
sold enough to go cardboard.
So like
Yep.
what, 7 now, and this
Over-
is the first one.
something like that.
We've at least sold 1,000, at least about 1,500 of them.
That's not bad.
Something like that.
This is really probably one of the first ones because
I think
Yeah.
we might be on our third printing of 1,000 of that.
Maybe.
I think that was because that was the first one,
Yeah.
and I know we've definitely had to reprint it once.
your best songs on here.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite Folk Hogan song? I gotta know.
I tricked you. It's on
Let's-
my list.
You tell us
Band of
about
Mighty
this.
Souls,
Band
part
of Mighty
part
Souls.
1, or the
Part
one
one.
without a number.
Yeah. It's a
Casey, the new
classic.
bass player, keeps calling it Band of Mighty Souls Original Sauce,
OG,
Yeah.
which is embedded in my head.
yeah.
We learned the other day that Cameron thought the lyrics in the second verse where we're talking about flying on a dragon and we say we soar on his back. Cameron thought the lyrics were with a sore on his back.
Yeah.
He thought we were just
Well,
talking
no, it's
about
not that.
a sore on the back of a dragon.
No,
Yeah.
it's about your van.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You never knew that
The
lyric.
first time I heard that song, which would have been probably before this came out,
Yeah, for sure.
I think it made me cry. I
Oh.
was like, oh, like I got that it was kind of a fairy tale, but I
Yeah.
also was like that band camaraderie thing, like
Yeah.
totally read.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Second favorite song, Band of Mighty Souls Part 3,
Oh,
Okay.
really? Oh.
Okay.
because it has a Your Mom joke in it.
It
Yeah,
does.
it does have a
It
good
sure does.
It does.
I know that was a previous episode, so everyone back at home,
Let 'em-
listen to the previous episode about those
I
songs.
had to put that in there.
It's so
When
good.
I thought of
What
it,
is
I was
it?
like,
Let her have a try.
Let her have a-
We'll take all of your mothers out and let them have a try.
Yeah.
Let them have a try.
Yeah, amazing.
So weird. It's so funny.
I mean,
It's so funny.
anyone who knows me well enough knows that I have a tendency to make mom jokes.
Oh yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
just think they're amazing. My since we're on favorite songs, second runner up or other runner up would be "Take Me to Your Leader,"
Ah.
You know, I love that song.
and my reasoning is, it's got this groovy rhythm, this pocket rhythm thing
Yeah.
that most of your songs don't.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's got like, well, the mandolin and the banjo kind of start out with kind of this like
Yeah.
repeating thing, this like rhythm that just kind of drives this driving thing. But then once the drums really kick in, it's just
Yeah.
got a real funky, and I don't want to say funky because you're not a funk band, but it's got a funky feel to it that's different than
yeah.
most of what you do.
One of the things that's really interesting about that song is if you can think of it in your head, if you shift where the downbeat is, and this was like Curtis, our old drummer, was like a reggae and funk drummer. And when I brought this song to the band, him and Jared were like, this is a reggae song. And I was like, no, you're putting the downbeat in the wrong place. And they were like, no, this is a reggae song.
Yeah.
It's like, because if you shift
Shift it
where
to
that
one.
downbeat
Yep.
is just a little bit, it becomes just a reggae song.
Yeah. But you shift it to what, or leave it where it
Yeah.
is, and it is funky.
Yeah.
We're listening to it, right?
Yeah, I got it playing in the background here.
Yeah.
I enjoy that song a lot. We haven't broken that song down yet on one of the episodes, but we will
We
soon.
will now.
It's got a lot
We'll see.
of parts to it,
Yeah.
and even in the finale, it like kind of goes back to a real straightforward
Yeah.
4/4 rock and roll rhythm,
Yeah.
but it still has that groove under
Yeah.
it, that pockety groove.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know what a pockety groove is, you haven't played in a band, and you don't blah 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 blah. Listen to Toto.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I dig that song. It's fun to hear that someone likes it because it's not a song we haven't played it in years.
In preparation for this
it's
recording,
not-
I did listen to your entire discography over the last
wow.
week,
Yeah.
twice. So
That's
Do you
a
have a favorite release, album or EP? I suppose.
ooh.
Did you listen to Flight Training?
Yeah, yeah, I've
Nice.
heard it.
Nice.
It's not the same as what you became.
Yeah, of course.
It's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not what you become. Actually, from what I know, the new album, the yet to be released, is going to be my favorite.
It's real
You and I have
artsy.
already discussed this a little bit. I think your songwriting, your messaging, your nuance is different than it used to be. I mean,
Yeah.
the Folk Hogan of 2012 in the bar drinking all the whiskey
Yeah.
isn't the band that made this new couple of records.
I feel like a perfect encapsulation of that is like in 2012 we would go on stage and it was a challenge to see how many shots we could have. Now I'm on a medication that has very much increased the effectiveness that alcohol has on me, so I don't really drink much anymore. And that's
Yeah,
like
that
the
much.
perfect old guy thing to say about what has happened. But also, there's a lot of clarity in that. You know, there's a lot of fun energy in the early stuff. Not that, you know, I certainly think Band of Mighty Souls Part 3 is very much in that same vein, but it's not as rough and tumble, I
Right.
would say.
And that EP is extremely polished. Like, it comes across as a very professional release, which it is.
Yeah.
It's clean, it's tight, it sounds good. It's not punk rock. You know,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that the new record's going to be my favorite as of right now. Probably Behold. No. Oh, here's the thing. because after the Deerhunter, that ended pretty badly for me, both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And I disappeared for
Years.
4 years.
Yeah.
I worked with Nick a couple times on some button making and sticker making projects
Yeah.
for my band, but I didn't see you guys play for a while.
Yeah.
So I missed the whole show era of the band. I know it. I've heard it. I own it. I just don't
Have the same.
it was a
attachment
different
to it.
time. Yeah, a different time for me. So Behold, I think, was when I kind of came back.
Yeah.
Reasons being I changed the way I live, the way I eat, and Nick was a big part and a big influence on me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make you blush, Nick.
It's working.
Yeah, Nick was an inspiration to me on changing my diet the way I did, and also, you know, coming back to the band was like, I'm over it. Like the issues I had, I'm past that now, and so I was able to start enjoying your band differently than I did for a while there. Yeah. And I think I saw you at ABG's or something a few times in the middle.
Right.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
I mean, just so everybody knows, I haven't really seen 125 or 150 full Folk Hogan shows. I see 2 songs and then leave, or I show up late and see 2 songs, or I show up in the middle, flip them off a couple times, and then leave.
Yeah.
I've seen you play live a good number of times, 75 or 100 times, but a lot of the times I see you, it's not full shows.
Yeah.
Because I got other shows to see.
Yeah.
I have other friends that I have to support, and I have other places to be.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just too tired to hang out. I just come in and say hi.
We're adults. That's just how it works.
It sure is.
That's a fun thing to do, and just like go experience, like, you know, this little buffet of what's going on.
And there's always a lot going on.
It's creepy when I saw you guys play at Fisher Brewing, where there was pretty much nobody there.
Yeah.
Like
No
a year
one.
ago or 2 years ago.
That was
There was nobody there.
Yeah, it was
And
so
I walked
weird.
in, and I was like, it was me and a couple of significant others.
Yeah.
And 2 casual bro dudes drinking beer
in a big room.
in a big, empty, echoey room. And I can't sneak away from that.
That was interesting. They had been doing great since they opened, and they like kept buying buildings next to them. So now they've gone all the way to the end of that block.
They have the whole place.
Which is where basically where this room was, this big giant empty white room that had like a little stage on it. And they had been into performance audio when Scott was working, buying some of the stuff to start setting up like a PA system in there and have shows. But they like didn't quite have it all set up yet or something like that. And they're like, yeah, we're going to start booking bands. And you know any bands? And he's like, yeah, I'm in a band. And so we just had this really early on booking with that place. And I haven't since heard about any shows going on there.
Yeah, I don't know much.
I mean, I live a whole 2 blocks away, if that.
Yeah.
It's really close to my house, and I haven't heard anything to this sort. But also, it's amazing how that little pocket of Salt Lake is a completely different culture than like I'm used to.
Yeah.
I saw someone walking down the road today in that neighborhood with a snowboard in their hands.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different culture. Salt Lake City has no snow.
Yeah.
It's just that's kind of the vibe down there. Is these out of town bros.
My HOA decided to get together at a bar, and the first time they all met at Paxton, which is basically across the street.
It's right across the road, yeah.
And then the next time they met at that like T&F or whatever it is.
TF Brewing, yeah.
And I had just finished doing sound for a show, and I was like, that might have gotten, most people probably filtered out of that place 30 minutes ago. I'll go see if any of my neighbors are like rascals that are going to be drinking 2 hours later.
Yeah.
see if they're like turning one up on a Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. And I went in there and the place was completely packed.
And there's a line to get beers.
And I'm walking around and there's probably 300 people in there. Not one person I know, which is so weird for Salt Lake. If you're
Small Lake City.
yeah, like to go to a bar and not know one single person, or even be like, oh, you know, we're not like good friends, but like acquaintances,
Someone I know,
or whatever.
especially you're someone in the public eye. People recognize you, and you've seen all their faces.
To go into that building and feel like I was in Montana or something.
Yeah.
Because it is like very much a different culture.
Yeah.
Even
And
though it's
Fisher's
right there.
kind of the same way.
Yeah. And Fisher's kind of the same way. It's like it's just got its own thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it was a fun time, but it was totally weird to be there.
Fisher used to always have a dark beer on tap. I don't know if they do now, but that was a place I could count on, where I could go and get a beer that I was guaranteed to like.
Yeah.
Because that's not always the case with most places I go to. So, which, I mean, I don't go out much. So,
Because you're old.
because I'm old now.
Yeah. So I alluded to this a little bit earlier with my career, and that I do show production and event production, and I did sound for you guys quite a few times early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One day in 2017, Nick posts on Facebook at 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock or whatever.
Oh my God.
Is there anybody near Spanish Fork that has a PA system right now?
Right now.
And I said, I'll be there in 15 minutes.
Yeah. And we're like, okay.
It was already half loaded in my car from a gig I had already done.
It was, oh man.
So I showed up at this other bar in Spanish Fork. This is way past the Deerhunter days.
Yeah.
Set up this PA system as fast as I could. Half the band had run for whatever you could get to help support this.
Yeah.
And yeah. So we had a show.
Told them to turn the van back around or whatever.
Come back. We
Come
got
back.
something.
We found a PA system.
Yeah.
and
What
we're
was the
setting
name
it
of
up.
that place?
The Blackjacks.
Blackjacks.
Oh my gosh.
That was for
That's where we got our first review.
yeah, Rob Page's birthday also. Big shout out.
We didn't even know that we had reviews available on our Facebook page until we got a 1-star review that night.
Yeah.
Oh.
This guy came in
He didn't
and
like us.
Probably because the sound guy sucked.
and he
No.
he
He just
hated
didn't
us,
like
and
us.
he, as soon as we were done, I think it was a Puddle of Mud song came on the jukebox, and we were like, oh yep, and he was like one of 3 people that weren't tangentially related to us that was in the bar.
You had chased them all away by then.
And so he, like, you know, it was nothing but like Puddle of Mud and Nickelback and stuff like that.
That's a special place.
And
So
as we're
from
loading the van,
Blackjacks to like downtown music in downtown Salt Lake, essentially, a few blocks. from
45 minutes if there's no
45
traffic.
minutes. We had gotten to the show and realized there was no sound system.
which they had told us there was a sound system.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken,
After we got there, and it was like, yeah, we've got one. I think it's in the back.
Yeah.
Wasn't really, and as it became more apparent, there was no sound guy. There was no
PA.
There was no PA.
Their idea of a sound system was like, oh, you mean the house stereo system?
A mic we can do a raffle from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most of the musicians that play there
we always brought our own when we played there.
would bring their own, and that was understood. And the person that had booked us there is a musician that just travels around and always has all of their gear all of the time.
Was that Tom?
It was Tom Bennett, yeah.
Yep.
And I've known Tom forever. And so Tom was like,
Shout out Tom.
oh, I
Tom
just
Bennett.
thought most bands just always carried a PA system, because I do.
Yeah.
Like, why, I just thought that was like, didn't even think to mention that.
You live in your car traveling around
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah,
That guy's the real deal.
for real. Talk about somebody who plays
million
200-300 shows.
He
a
does
year.
300 shows a year for sure.
Yeah.
And really fucking does this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
But yeah, Pete saved us. He saved our ass.
saved our lives.
I
'Cause
think I have a recording of all that. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's usable. I'll see if I can find it.
it was Rob Page's birthday. Rob Page is our number one fan, and so he was so excited when we got there and there was no PA. It was like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? We have to do something for Rob. So yeah, you saved us and you saved Rob's birthday.
The recording's probably just vocals and maybe some drum mics. I probably don't have everything
Sure. But
because we just did
still love
whatever
to
we
laugh
had to
at it.
do.
So-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a few jokes at the expense of both Spanish Fork and that bar.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And as we were loading into the van is when someone noticed that someone had left a review on our Facebook. And they
Yeah.
pulled it up and looked at it, and it was a 1-star review. And I can't remember what he said, but it was something like, this band sucks or something like
Yeah.
that. And when they clicked on his profile, I was
Let's look
like,
it up.
that's the guy at the bar.
The one guy at the bar.
let's look at
Or
Hulk
no,
Hogan.
it wasn't. Oh yeah, he gave us a 1-star,
I'm
and then
gonna
so
leave
I
you a 1-star review.
At this point had a couple of drinks,
I remember.
and so I went in and like patted
they
him
have
on the shoulder,
reviews
and I was like,
anymore?
"Hey man, I want you to know I think you're a 3-star guy." And he was like, and he immediately was pissed and like threatened me, and I was like,
I'm
"All
sure he
right,
wanted to fight you."
I'm sorry, I was making a joke. I'm fine with people not liking my band. It's okay, bud.
I'm trying not. That used to be my competition, that bar.
Yeah.
And the demographic that goes there are people that I don't find particularly savory.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to be terribly rude right now.
But we get it.
Well, then let's go to a neutral site. Let's talk about City Limits.
Shitty Limits.
Shitty Limits.
My band played there a lot, and the Lava Rock and the Nagahide booths.
Yep.
The
Yep.
purple
Yep.
purple Nagahide booths.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever go down the ramp into the basement?
no.
No, I saw the ramp.
We used to get on
because
our
that's where you
rolling
loaded
road
in.
cases and ride them down the ramp. Okay. Well, 'cause my band involved costume changes. Like my guys needed glitter and
Yeah.
and eye patches and face masks and stuff. So we always had to go down there for our wardrobe stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably still in that the bar's closed now, but I bet there's still glitter on the walls from our glitter spraying parties.
That place was wild. Like,
It was usually actually a whole bunch of like Hispanics
This is how-
migrant worker type guys that would come to this bar and play
Yeah.
pool.
This is how I've always described that place, is that it was Hispanic construction workers,
Yeah.
still in their high vis every time, like half the bar, and then methed out middle-aged divorcee women.
Yeah.
And that was like the demographic.
And the
there.
super drunk old man that guarded the back door.
Yeah. Oh, and
I
part
can't
of that
remember
was
his
because-
name. I wish I could remember
Part of
it.
that was because there was that apartment complex that was like over the fence that
You could
they
walk
would call
through
the cops
fence.
on you if it
Yeah.
was too loud.
Yeah, if you like made too much noise loading your van, you'd get the cops showing up.
Oh my
But
gosh.
what's
yeah.
amazing about that place is how different the demographic was from so many places that we've played, and yet like I think Folk Hogan only played there like twice, 2 or 3 times, and yet I feel like every time I've played there in Folk Hogan, every time I played there, because I played there solo back in the day, every time I went and saw bands there, that's a place that like was shitty, and I always had a good time at it. Like it was.
We always really liked playing there.
Yeah.
But it was something else.
Yeah, it was
Back in the day, just on the tile floor.
Yeah, our mutual friend Judas would book us
Yeah.
in there.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
he would always book in there a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's kind of where he moved his show
yeah.
booking energy after Steamers went away.
Yeah. One time he booked us, we played, we got paid, everything. He needed a ride home. So we took him home to wherever his house was, up in Orem or something,
Yeah.
10 minutes away. He's like, oh, I left my backpack down there. Can you guys take me? He had left his backpack like laying in the alley behind city limits.
Oh no.
It was still
Sucks.
there.
Yeah.
We came
Oh,
back,
no.
got
I mean,
it,
it is
brought it
Provo.
back home.
Yeah.
It's Provo. There's no crime.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of crime, but
Yeah.
there's not
Different
that kind of
kind.
crime.
It's all meth crime.
Oh man, I love him so much. I love Glenn.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart.
Last time I saw him was at your show over at Metro.
Yeah.
Like the second time that I went to that bar, I was barely 21, and I watched someone rail a line of white stuff off of like a soap dispenser as I'm walking into the men's room, which is just to physically be walking and see somebody like just right immediately there doing something is already like jarring. But
Utah
I don't
County,
think it was
Provo.
cocaine.
Nick was
It was meth for sure.
Yeah,
Nick was
I'm sure.
Provo version of the film adaptation of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when the guy walks into the bathroom and sees the hippie.
I mean, I saw 3 guys in the bathroom stall at your show at ABG's 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh my!
ABG's bathroom stall. You'll see 5 guys in that stall sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing in there, but a lot of sniffling when they come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where was it? We played a show recently somewhere else that someone was I was using the urinal and someone was in a stall and I just kept hearing like.
Well, you went in and played half a song in the bathroom
At ABG's, yeah.
at ABG's. I figured I would hear sniffing through the sound of your mandolin mic.
No, not me.
Well, yeah, but
Too
there's
old for
everyone
that.
around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that ABG's bathroom, men's bathroom, is a comical thing.
It's like a
just so-
little lean-to on the back of that building. It's uninsulated, so it's ice cold in there all the time. And there's glitter on the walls from my band.
Yeah.
And the door is like 15 inches wide.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny.
It's not wide enough for you to walk through with your mandolin.
Yeah.
Because we have video photographic proof of that. Yeah. So I have funny stories about your mandolin.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
3 different times over the years, people have looked at you. Like I'll be out on the patio. I was out at the patio at Metro.
Mm-hmm.
It was Scotty's last show.
Oh yeah.
I was out on the patio. You guys were about to start. Some guy came running out. Dude, you've got to see this. He's got a miniature guitar. It's a miniature flying V guitar. You've got to see this thing.
Yep.
And they both like stood up and ran inside.
There
and
is
I
a
was like,
wow factor to that instrument.
always comments about that.
Always.
Yeah, I get a lot of, is that a guitar or is that a ukulele?
Yeah.
That's the question I tend to get a lot.
Yep.
Well,
No. Is the
I'm
answer.
going to play some outro music and we're going to part 2 this.
Are we really there?
Okay.
We're really there.
Okay, good, because I have to take
I have to pee.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
You know what?
the
You know what, you guys? I just want to say something before we end this.
Part 1.
Go get your pee out.
We gotta shake a pee.
Don't keep it in.
Drain the lizard. Outro. Is there really more?
Yeah, we'll do another part.
Dear listening audience, we got a part 2
We're having
coming
too much
right
fun
up.
to stop.
There's way too many stories here.
Oh boy.
Take me to your
I'm
leader.
afraid to hear about the things I've done.
You know what's funny is I don't have pictures. Oh wait, we're still recording. Chug and pee, chug and pee. I used to be able to hold it for like 6 hours. No.
Preacher, I've done some terrible things. I have been gifted with horns, not wings. So open your book and tell me my fate. Am I your child? Is it too late? And I know that I'm not right. The storm that brings me here is gonna take me out tonight. In the end, there will be no light. So my my blade always thirsty, but never being dry. To maim is a pleasure, to kill is my pride. Loved every person that I ever made mine, and I made a good living taking lives, and I know that I'm not right. The storm that brings me here is gonna take me out tonight. In the end, there will be no light. So Jesus said, come in, my son, step into the light. The Lord will have you in his house, even through the night. To have forgiveness, all you need is just to repent. It is the way. What do you say?